In my last video, I was finishing up a week of exploring Iceland, which was full of waterfalls, weather, and even an ice cave. I'll leave links to those videos in the description down below in case you haven't seen them. But while my time in Iceland was coming to a close, it was actually only the first leg of my trip. So I made my way back to the airport, met up with my friend Marshall and the rest of our group, and we flew to Greenland. The flight over the eastern Greenland coast was easily one of the most scenic plane rides I've ever been on. We had an evening departure, and as we flew west, we chased the sunset the entire way as the last bits of light left the landscape below us. Before long, the jagged peaks of the coastline gave way to a massive sheet of white as far as the eye could see as we crossed the Greenland ice cap. We made our destination right at dusk, and the dim light gave us our first glimpse at the massive icebergs in the bay.
Thanks very much.
We claimed our bags, caught a shuttle to our hotel, where we were treated to the Aurora Daring dinner. Then it was time to turn in before an early start in the morning, with a hike to the edge of the Icefjord. Dogsledding is a major part of the culture in Greenland, and as it happened, there was a race scheduled on our first full day, so we decided to see what it was all about. It turned out to be quite an event. It seemed like the entire town was there to cheer the mushers on. Next, we were off to the harbor to catch a boat ride into the Icefjord.
Where are we, Marshall?
Greenland, and it's amazing.
So we've been going on boat trips the last couple days. This is our second. We have a third this afternoon. So we've been doing a lot of shooting from the boat, which brings a lot of challenges. It's no good using a tripod. It doesn't help you at all because the boat's moving, your subject's moving. So you just got to use a lot of fast shutter speeds, longer lenses because we're shooting targets that are quite a ways from the boat. Yeah, it's been a new kind of challenge for me, something I don't really do a lot of. So it's been fun just picking out abstracts and shooting things that are interesting about the icebergs. Just massive icebergs here too. I managed to get a couple shots that have a ship in the background or a bird or something like that to give us some sense of scale, and it's just incredible how huge these are. If you look at the satellite maps, it just looks like little chunks of ice, coming out of the ice shelf in the fjord. But man, they are just, some of these are like small town sized icebergs. It's incredible. So it's been a lot of fun shooting, just different abstracts along the ice shelf, and a handful of shots that are just a wall of ice, which has been really cool. This evening we have a boat trip. The next trip is a sunset excursion, so it'll be kind of nice to shoot all this stuff again, only with some nicer lower light. It'll be interesting to see what we can get there. Yeah, absolutely amazing time in Greenland so far. It's been incredible. Here's a handful of those shots from this trip, and let me know what you think in the comments down below. This is the little village of Ilulissat. We're out for a walk because there is some interesting looking little buildings around. The sun's up, and the buildings are really colorful, so we're gonna run out and see if we can put a couple compositions on a few of these. This is an interesting town because there's no roads that come to Ilulissat. All the roads are just local community roads. So all of these cars, I imagine, were probably ferried in or something like that. But it's been a fun little town. We've been hanging around seeing a lot of the icebergs the last couple days. So it's kind of nice to mix it up and go see if I can photograph something a little different. Coming up on my first interesting target. It's just this kind of interesting looking shack. It's all weathered in. It's super. I think it's cool. It's got a lot of detail in it. I don't know why, but all the more rustic looking buildings are more interesting to me. Probably just because, there's more to look at. So yeah, now I'm just kind of looking around, seeing where the best place to set up. I think I want to take kind of a angle view on this profile on this building. That's what I'm thinking. So maybe over here somewhere. I'll show you what I'm looking at. So I've framed this up with a Horseman VH 2x3 6x9 camera, and I'm using my Fujinon 105mm 5.6 lens, which has framed up this building pretty decently, I think. So I managed to capture the entire building, a little bit of the bay behind it, and then there's this lamp post that's up on the right side of the composition, which I want to make sure I included. It was really cool little detail. My favorite thing about this whole composition, I think, I don't know why, is this hoist that's right here. It's like a crane out front. I can only imagine it's a engine crane. So I imagine this is probably some type of repair shop, probably for boats. So I've taken a couple exposures on Fuji Provia 100F. And those were f16 and 2/3 and 1/60 was my shutter speed. It's pretty quick because I'm in broad daylight here, which I think works for this because it keeps the snow nice and bright. The main front side face of this building is lit, and then I have some shadows on the side. I think it works. I don't usually shoot in broad daylight a lot, but for buildings and stuff like this around town, I think it works really well. There is a little bit of a frozen pond in the foreground here. I couldn't really cut that out without including too much sky, so I'm just gonna have to deal with that. There's a couple, I think I would have been okay with it, except there's some broken ice in the foreground, so I may have to, either crop it or maybe I'll just live with it. I'm not sure yet. But there's some clutter on the right-hand side and stuff. I wanted to make sure that I kept out of it. But I got a couple exposures just for backups. Had some issues trying to advance my film back there for a second. I'm not sure if it was just frozen or what was going on. So I took a couple additional exposures to make sure that it got my frame spacing right. And as I was setting up for that, there was a boat, fishing boat, passing by. So I decided to take a frame with it in the background on the right-hand side. I believe it was in the composition. And then a second one that came out the other side of the building. So I have one on the left side too. So 4 exposures total on this building. And that's about it. So now I think there's another building right behind me. I'm going to pick the camera up and basically just spin it around, walk down the road a little bit here, because there's another really interesting looking little shed or house. It's a house, not a shed. But I think I'd like to get a couple exposures on that as well. Maybe finish off the roll, we'll see. I have 8 exposures on the roll and I've shot half of it already on this building. So it goes by pretty quick. But either way, let's take a look at those exposures.
The exposure on these turned out spot on. There's plenty of texture in the snow, and the shadow detail looks good. And despite my film winding issues, all 4 of these turned out just fine. Of the 4, I like the ones with the boat in the background, as they add just a little bit of extra detail. And the inclusion of the light post I think was a good move, as it helps balance the image.
So I picked the camera up and just literally spun around 180, walked down the road just a little bit, and now there's this really cool house that I'm photographing. Again, it's another one of these ones that's kind of more rustic looking. I think that's more interesting because it's just weathered looking, instead of being, recently painted and pristine. I think that's a more interesting look. But this is up on a mound a little bit with some rocks. It looks like they might have had some dogs in the front yard at some point. I can hear them in the backyard. But the rocks are sticking through a little bit, and various details in the foreground here. And then the house with its, awesome blue, aqua blue tone color. I really like the color of it. And there is a lamppost again in this one. Make sure I capture that in frame as well. It's kind of a bulb this time instead of just being like an over street lamp thing. Yeah, it's a scene I think that works really well, especially on 6x9 format. It framed up beautifully with my Nikon 150mm lens. Again, shooting probably 100f on this one. I had a little bit of a mishap trying to advance my film there on the last scene. I don't know if it's just cold or if I loaded the roll funny or something. So I ended up sacrificing a frame, so I only had 3 left. So I went ahead and burned the rest of the roll on it. And these shots were a third less exposure. So it was f/22, 1/30. Because it's a little bit brighter here. There's a little more direct sun. So I decided to knock it down by a third. And that's it. That's the roll. So I'm gonna have to at least change to another roll, but I think we're gonna head back and get warm because it is very cold in Greenland this time of year. So in any case, here's those exposures, and let's see how they look.
Probably my favorite thing about this composition, besides the one house that's isolated on the hill by itself, is the row of all the other colorful houses behind it. This was a common theme we saw across the entire town of Ilulissat, and I'm glad that I captured something with them in it. And of course, we couldn't leave Greenland without going on a sled ride.
You got more puppies.
Puppers.
Puppers.
Pupper sled.
Yeah. Pupper car.
It's a definite pupper car.
How many puppers do we have? 2, 4, 6, 8. 10 puppers. It's a 10 pupper sled. It's a 10 cylinder.
How many legs though?
It's 10. That'd be 40.
4 legs.
40. It's a 40 leg drive.
Those dogs, they lead the stuff.
They lead? They're the lead dogs? I was wondering. So why you have to hold them because they're ready to go?
Yes. Yes, they are. If I listen, so you're ready to go.
Good. I'm glad go isn't the word for go then. This is where they park.
On our last evening in Greenland, we visited the Icefjord one more time and were treated to a beautiful sunset. Thanks as always for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, you can let me know by hitting that thumbs up button down below, and maybe while you're down there, consider hitting that subscribe button if you haven't already. Take care, and I'll catch you in the next one.